Welcome to Lunch with Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with local and national thought leaders on issues impacting the Black community. Now introducing our host, Miss Ann Marie Sorrell.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lunch with Legacy Leaders. I'm your host, Ann Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Thursday afternoon to join us. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Broward Health and the Florida Lottery, for making this broadcast possible. Today, I am super excited about our guests. We have so many women that are stepping up in politics. She's already been a commissioner, and now she's a mayoral candidate for Miami-Dade County. Let's welcome Commissioner Daniella Levine Cava.
So
how are you, Commissioner? Very excited for you to be here.
I'm very, very excited to be with you. Thank you for the honor. Legacy, love it. And I love your series. I'm very proud.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So for our audience who do not know you, because we have viewers from all over South Florida, so I want to just read your bio briefly, and then we're going to get right into everything that's happening in your world right now, which is a lot.
Yes, yes.
So Daniella Levine Cava is a county commissioner representing South Dade. She joined the county commission in 2014 as an independent champion for our people and planet. She has the vision, integrity, experience, and know-how to make real change. She stands up against the status quo to protect our environment, expand public transit, support working families, and hold special interests accountable. She has been a tireless advocate for Miami-Dade residents, businesses, and communities for 40 years, and is the visionary founder of one of our community's preeminent nonprofits, Catalyst Miami. In 1999, Daniella Levine Cava led the community effort to establish the first ever living wage ordinance in Miami-Dade County, and since then, she has been a leader in community job creation and support for small businesses to grow and thrive. Now she's running for Miami-Dade County Mayor to make history, matched with a vision and a plan to get stuff done. As the first woman mayor of Miami-Dade County, Daniella will continue to take on the business as usual attitude in County Hall and deliver results. She has been at the forefront of the county's response to COVID-19, leading the way to ensure healthcare professionals are protected, employees have a voice, and residents have access to the social services so many need today. Again, welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction.
You're welcome. So share with us your experience as a Miami-Dade Commissioner from the time you got started, and then particularly now in these unprecedented times.
Yes, so I was a community activist for 40 years in Miami-Dade. I worked across the county, started the nonprofit Catalyst Miami, ran the foster care system, ran the guardian ad litem program, worked at Legal Services of Greater Miami, and really got to know every corner, especially people who were struggling. That was my specialty. And so when I stepped up to run for office in 2014, it was time to go inside government and take what I'd learned and bring all the people that were activists in the community with me into County Hall. So for 6 years, I've been very proud to serve. I've had a great run. We've done many, many things to lift up families, communities, make housing more affordable, better access to jobs for young people, certainly lots of environmental issues, transit, and so on. But we are facing really a critical turning point in Miami-Dade County. And it takes somebody with vision, with courage to step out in this time especially. You know, I did not know in April 2019 when I filed to run that we would have a COVID pandemic. I did not know that George Floyd would be murdered in broad daylight and documented for the world to see. And these two things have changed the course of history. So I actually feel that it is incredibly fortunate that I get to step up in 11 days to be the mayor of Miami-Dade County so that we can turn those crises into opportunities. So that's where we are.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to dive a little bit more into quite a bit of what you mentioned here. So Miami-Dade County has been one of the hardest hit areas in South Florida as it relates to COVID-19. What has been the county's response?
Yeah, Well, I'm a social worker and a lawyer, and I've done a lot of work on healthcare access. I have been so frustrated at the slow response for COVID. I think our leaders were reluctant to acknowledge the full seriousness of the situation. In March, I was calling for a shutdown before it happened. I was calling for massive testing before that happened. And so we were slow to put those pieces in place. And then we opened too soon. Businesses had to shut down again after the cases soared. So that was bad for everybody. It was bad for our health. Our hospital system was nearly overwhelmed, and our businesses incurred a huge amount of expense. And they were already teetering on the edge. So
Right.
I have been, as I say, frustrated from the beginning. Too little, too late. One step forward, two steps back. Right now, we're looking again at an uptick. We're not having a major surge. Hopefully, that's because people are masking up as we need to. Those who are most vulnerable, staying safe. But we know our children are back to school, our businesses are back open. We cannot let up. We must monitor, we must test, contact trace, and isolate. People cannot be carrying around the virus and expect something good to happen. So I will be
agree.
appointing, I just want to say one last thing, I'm sorry. I will be appointing a chief medical officer as soon as I come into office, because we will lead with science and facts.
No, I can appreciate that, because there's so many people who still believe that this virus is a hoax, or that it's going to just disappear after the election because it's a party thing or a political thing. And it's like, no, this is a real thing that's impacting lives and taking lives. So I applaud you for that. I applaud you for going with science, and definitely continue to encourage people that are out here living their best lives to live it safely.
If I could add, Ann Marie, people want to say, oh, it's health or the economy. Well, we know those two things go together. And I heard a great line. It's both about our lives and our livelihoods, because we cannot safely get back to our livelihoods if we do not take the health aspect seriously. So I believe that we can do it. I believe we can live within this viral environment, which is so scary until we get the vaccine. But we need to not let up on the precautions.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Now, another issue at the forefront, which you brought up, George Floyd's death, are issues impacting issues with policing and social justice. How has Miami-Dade County responded to this, and what do you believe are some innovative and long-term solutions?
Very interesting timing. Commissioner Jordan, who's District 1, northern part of the county, had long sponsored an effort to put back in place an independent civilian panel to review cases of allegations of police misconduct. And the legislation had been vetoed by the mayor and did not survive. It did not come back. But after this incident, this murder, of course, there is new momentum to bring this forward. Even though that event happened in Milwaukee, we know that racism exists in our society. And we need to, wherever there's government, there needs to be accountability. So it came back. I was a co-sponsor. In fact, I was a prime co-sponsor of an effort to put it on the ballot to make it a permanent office, which failed, was vetoed, unfortunately. But we are moving forward. And so I think that's a very good thing. Now, as a result of my support for that item, I did not earn the endorsement of our police unions. My opponent did. And, we differed on this point. And, reasonable people could have a conversation about that. But instead, it has turned into a very, very shameful lying campaign that I would defund police, that I would undermine police, which is so far from the truth. I have voted every year to increase police spending. I've lobbied for more police. We've restored policing in my district, added more officers, a new police station, etc. So I have spoken very forcefully against those lies, but they persist. That is the main attack in my campaign, that basically, if you voted for me, that's somehow radical, that I would radically change the face of Miami-Dade. So very, very untrue and unfair. I'm simply about transparency, accountability, And I believe this independent civilian panel will be great for our police, that it will turn into something that will help to reestablish trust in communities that have lacked trust because of these histories.
Absolutely. And I think it's unfortunate that on a national scale, that there's this divide between the community or certain communities and police, and that it's supposedly one or the other, instead of coming up with workable solutions where we can all coexist and work together, and police can do what taxpayers are paying police to do, which is protect and serve everyone.
Right, exactly. And public safety, look, the number one function of government is to keep people safe. No question about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Now, I've read a little bit up on you, and I know that social equity is a huge, you're a huge champion for social equity. And so one of the questions that I have is, do you think that's something that we will ever achieve? And what role do each of us as individual citizens play in working to achieve social equity? Well, first, let's backtrack. What is social equity, number one? Is it achievable? And then what role do we play as individuals?
Yes, thank you. Well, ideally, the great ideal of this country, the American dream, would say that everybody has a shot at it. Everybody has a chance, that opportunity is equal. People are not all the same, but we all have the same ambitions and goals for a better life for ourselves and for our children. And unfortunately, we know that that truly does not exist in this country. It's part of our legacy, unfortunately. We had slavery, and have we ever fully recovered from that? No, we have not recovered from having a nation that was originally built upon slavery. And so we have to be very conscious. First, you have to see it, then to address it. And that's why I say George Floyd's murder gives us an opportunity, because really people were home. They were, paying more attention. And this happened in a way that really called to account across the world, people talking about this and using this as an opportunity to talk about various liberation movements. So we cannot afford to close the door on that. We need to continue to expose it. Just an hour ago, we had a discussion item at the Board of County Commissioners meeting. Commissioner Moss had a discussion item on the status of Black Miami that came out of a newspaper series that the Miami Herald produced on that topic. And our Black Affairs Advisory Board Chairman Stephen Hunter did a presentation, and it was very moving that Commissioner Moss, in his last days on the county commission after serving 20 plus years, chose to make sure to leave that as a legacy, that what would the future bring. And of the African American commissioners, the only one who was staying on because of term limits right now is Commissioner Jean Monestime. So he pledged to take the mantle as a commissioner. Of course, we have other Black commissioners coming on board, and of course they're all fighters as well for civil rights and equal access and justice and so on. But I have pledged as mayor to do everything in my power to elevate this issue. I will have an Office of Equity and Inclusion. We are moving forward with a disparity study that says it's time we do race-based contracting, because being race blind has only contributed to a loss of opportunity. And every economic downturn like this one always affects the Black community the worst, because there's little to fall back upon. It's the lack of equity. It's the lack of wealth. It's not just the lack of income. So we have to be extremely conscious. I will be very deliberately moving forward to evaluate and reform and monitor to make sure that we can make up for these wrongs.
And I appreciate that, because Miami-Dade County, and not just Miami-Dade County, several other places, there has been a history of racial and ethnic divide. And I see that you've received a lot of endorsements from various community groups, including African American and Haitian leaders. in
Yes.
Miami-Dade County. And so my question to you is, if elected mayor, how will you engage the entire community and create a unified alliance?
Thank you so much. I've been asked that question quite a bit on the campaign trail. And what is my agenda, my Black agenda, which is, by the way, called Empower, which is an acronym, EMPOWER. It includes home ownership, support for Black business, apprenticeships for youth, investment in nonprofits, and many other features. And it can be found at my website, daniella.vote/empower. But I think, it's about accountability. I was recently so honored to receive the endorsement of a very large group of Black pastors, which was incredibly uplifting. And I said to them, the bad news is that when I'm elected, you still have work to do. It's not just get me elected, it's be by my side, because I cannot do this if I'm abandoned by the community. This is I call it inside outside strategy. We have to have the people in the community organized with a clear voice, and then we have to have people inside government that want to hear from them, that are creating that space, which is what I came into government to do, to create the space for civic voice to be heard and to have a seat at the table. So we are definitely going to have quarterly check-ins. We're going to, I'm on speed dial. It's not every 4 years kind of affair. We're going to do this together, get to higher ground by working together to call to account for these things. But as mayor, I'm not officially the policy maker for the commission, right? We have 13 commissioners. So I'll be working with the 13 commissioners to bring them on board and to be responsive to their concerns. And I'm mapping out a very comprehensive public participation process. So you're going to see an entirely different look of government. It will start with a public surveying component. It will go to community convenings to talk about these issues, and then we'll have annual report cards. How are we doing? So it will be a very, very different look.
Wow, that sounds really exciting and different. So kudos to you for having a Empower agenda. I think it's super important, and continuing your work in social equity. Now, women, I get really excited because women are running for public office. Women running for public office has and continues to increase across the country as well as around the globe. What are your thoughts on what's causing this surge, particularly women of color who are stepping up to lead? What do you think is causing this enthusiasm to serve and run for office?
Wow, that's such a great question. Well, I think women always look to serve and look for the void. I know I do. Like, why am I running for mayor? Well, because I did not see anybody else who would be able to serve in the way that I would. It's not because of needing a name or a title or ego. It's because this has to be done. And so I have the capacity to step up, so I had to step up. And it took me till age 59 to run for office. So it was not something that was a career path for me, right? I was very happy serving in the community as an activist. As a lawyer and a social worker, but as an activist for change in the community. And I think that's true for other women. They look around and they see there are things that need to be done. They need to take care of business. They need to fix the problems. I had a big billboard with a logo with a slogan that my son invented. We were kind of debating what my son, who's 30 plus now, he's a writer, what would be a good slogan? And he came up with, "They broke it, she'll fix it." And we ran with that, which I thought, really kind of quick got your attention.
Yeah.
We need something different. We need a woman's touch. We need good listening. We need less ego. We need less status quo, somebody who's going to bring people together. So I think those are more typically, not men don't have those qualities. They could learn them, but it's a little more instinctive to the women. And then women see a need and they step up. That's my opinion, but I'd like to know. And as far as Black women, which, yes, very true. I mean, that would be double so, right? A woman, and also looking at these disparities, not just as a woman, but as a Black woman, and going, we got to take care of business here. We got to get this done.
Right. Absolutely. And so do you think that women make better leaders and better political figures?
I think women are bringing something to the table that has been missing in leadership for a long time. I do think there's a shift to a more inclusive leadership, a more facilitative leadership. It's not as I say, maybe it's more like as I do, bringing people into the fold. And I think that as a nation, as a world, and looking at women leaders around the world, they've famously done so much better in this COVID pandemic. They've been able to tell the hard truth, but also inspire people to do the right thing. It's hard. It's very hard. Of course, we could compare to the person in the White House who's been so problematic in so many ways, I would say. But one of them is he can't make up his mind. It's do this, it's do that. Not clear, solid, calm guidance that creates a sense of confidence that we can get through this together.
Absolutely. And the empathy definitely has not been there.
Thank you for bringing up that key word. Yes, the empathy. And, thank you. I had forgotten that. But, I have this, I've spent a lot of years working on issues of planning and participation and what are the domains that are important. Certainly our economy is important. Our environment is important, and equity. So those are kind of the three main pillars. But then I always add empathy, because without empathy, or there's been a move for compassion, that's really true. And, again, not that men can't do that. It's just not the typical way that they lead.
Right.
They're much more reactive and combative, I think.
Absolutely. Now, do you think that for beyond 2020, for women in politics and women in leadership, but particularly in politics, do you foresee that there's going to be a continued upward trend, or do you have any outlook or insight on the outlook for women in government, women in politics, moving forward?
Well, I'll tell you about my 3-year-old granddaughter, who's very excited about her nonna running for mayor. Obviously for her, it's just a normal. There's nothing different about it that a woman, her grandma, would run for mayor. So I think that as this becomes a new normal, that for sure, we're going to see more people step up. And also the thing that's different, like it took me age 59 to be ready to do it. I mean, so many reasons why I wasn't ready to do it, but I see younger and younger women running. I find that very, very inspiring, that women are, they're not waiting to have all the answers or to feel totally confident that they know enough to do the job. They're willing, like so often the men, to just say, yeah, sure, I'll figure it out.
Absolutely. Well, no, that's a beautiful thing. So, is there anything else you'd like for our audience to know about your candidacy for mayor?
Well, let's see. I have a lot of very practical solutions, what we're going to do about affordable housing, what we'll do about traffic, how we'll clean up our water system, how we'll build infrastructure. I have a lot of ideas. I guess what I would say is that I am the common sense candidate. I'm the problem solver candidate. I am very proud that I can work across the aisle. I have people, it's a nonpartisan role, but I have people across the aisle and independents that support me. And I think that what's most important is that people have trust, that people feel that they can relate to the person that's making these decisions that have such an impact on their lives, that they know that I'll be honest, that I'll study the issues, that I'll be fair and impartial. So even if we disagree on a particular point, I would hope that people will get to the place where we can have civil discourse about policy issues and not devolve into these ideological warfare sorts of things, which unfortunately tend to characterize these elections. So somebody asked me the other day, I'll just end with this. Somebody asked me the other day, what will I do once I'm elected with the people who didn't vote for me and those that would be so angry? Because there are people, I mean, I've had people come up to me as I'm campaigning, shaking their fist in my face and telling them they hate me. Like, where is that coming from, right? This incredibly divisive time that we're in. And I said to the person, you know what? They'll get over it because I will be working so hard to make life better for them and for everyone that we'll get past this period of divide and we'll get on with just doing the work that needs to be done to take our community forward.
That's great. I want my last question for you, Commissioner Cava, and it's more of a our audiences, the people in our communities. There's so much divide, there's so much uncertainty, there's so much frustration with this time, and I think everybody's really counting down to election day and seeing what the outcome is going to be, and still not knowing that, once an election happened, this magical day on November 3rd, once this happens and whoever is elected at whatever level, still not knowing what that's going to mean on November 4th, 5th, December 1st, January 2021, whatever day. So what, when we had President candidate Obama running, he infused a lot of hope in people, right? So what is a golden nugget? What is a takeaway that you'd like to leave with our listeners during this time of just unrest and uncertainty and divide, and with everything going on? What is a nugget that you can leave with everyone?
Yeah. Yes, so true. The hope is the thing that we need more than anything. And of course, President Obama was so excellent at creating that. Well, I think it's the same. We're living through these times that are so unprecedented. We don't know how we're going to kick this virus. We don't know how we're going to restore our economy to health. So many are struggling. The evictions, the mortgage foreclosures, the business closures on the horizon. It's a very, very scary time. So I believe that we can rebuild stronger than ever. I think we can work smarter. I think we can get our government employees to help us find efficiencies and economies of scale. I think we can move our new economy, our business starts, our housing starts, our infrastructure starts. I think we can move them quicker, creating good jobs. I think we can invite our business sector and our financial leaders to the table to say, how can we help people get through this problem of the not being able to pay rent or mortgages? So let's work together to come up with a formula that will not allow the bottom to fall out of our economy. So I am, like in the words of Marian Wright Edelman, who is one of my biggest heroes and the founder of the Children's Defense Fund. She was on the board of directors at a college where I attended, Yale University. She was on our board of corporation, and I had the great honor and privilege to get to know her just a little bit and later to get to know her more and become a friend. She definitely put out there that the rising tide will lift all boats. And that is the way that I have always lived. That is what I think we can do with this crisis, turn it into opportunity. I believe it in my heart. If I didn't, I wouldn't want this job. So I'm here to tell people that I'm going to work as hard as ever to make it so. If people come together and work with me to get there, we can do it.
Absolutely. Well, you definitely seem like the woman for the job. I wish you all the best. And what is it, 11 days? How many days are left?
Yes, 11 days. God willing. I'm so excited.
in 11 days. I wish you the best of luck with everything. Thank you for joining us. Just stay with me for another minute or so. We're going to make a few announcements, but thank you so much for joining us. I hope that those in Miami-Dade County is well informed by our conversation today, and that they will make an informed decision when they go cast their ballots.
Thank you so much. It's been
You're welcome.
Joyful.
Absolutely. So everyone, please, MIA Magazine presents Soul, hosted by Miss Nikki Jellin, featuring conversations about intellectual entertainment, food, fashion, art and culture, relationships, mental health, and more. Mark your calendar and tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on all of MIA Media Group's social media platforms and pages. Our next issue, highlighting our healthcare professionals and healthcare heroes, will be published on October 28th in the Miami Herald, as well as Sun Sentinel. So make sure you mark your calendar to pick up your copy, which is next week. Believe it or not, we're at the end of October next week. So please visit MIA Media Group for upcoming events, to tune into MIA Soul, as well as to get your electronic issue of the healthcare edition that will be coming out. Also, share this video with your followers and friends and colleagues, and mark your calendar for next Thursday. And we will see you next Thursday at noon.